over the rainbow with dreams of better than life. There's nobody to save. I sit alone with my head through the sky. Yes, I'm wondering, never asking why. I just see inside, see inside.
Hello, and welcome to the Mechanics of the Maya and to authority, inner authority. And today we're going to look at sacral authority. Now, sacral authority is a very interesting thing. If we think about the nature of the generators represent approximately 2/3 of the human population, just over 2/3 of humanity. Yet we know from the nature of emotionality, we know that approximately 51% of all human beings are emotional in nature. In other words, they have the solar plex system defined. The fact is that 1/3 of all of humanity, about 32% to be precise, are generators who are not emotional, generators who are unemotional. Now, obviously, there's a big difference in the way in which one's authority works between those who are unemotional and those who are emotional. And of course, in this particular case, because we are dealing with the generator phenomena, that we can see quite literally that whether you're a pure generator or a manifesting generator, half of all generators are emotional and half of all generators are not emotional. And it certainly changes deeply and profoundly the way in which they can make a decision. The emotional generator, regardless of what their response is, still has to go through their wave. There is no truth in the now. And a generative response for an emotional generator is just collecting information for the eventual decision that has to be made emotionally. But this is very, very different from what it is to be a generator who is unemotional. And remember, 1/3 of humanity are generators who are unemotional. These generators are here to operate in an extraordinary way. And at the same time, it creates an enormous challenge in their life. They're here to be, in that sense, existential. They're here to be existential in that they are here simply to respond in the moment to life. And the response in the moment to life is what they are all about. However, operating at an existential level is something that can be, and is, for most human beings, well, pretty much impossible. There are too many fears attached. You know, as long as you are somebody that is overwhelmed by the not-self mind, overwhelmed by the way in which the not-self mind is so concerned about the fears that you have within your life itself, what is going to happen to you in this or that, thinking about this tomorrow and the next tomorrow and all of those things, the fact is that the homogenized being with all of these mental concerns really does not have the ability, doesn't have the capacity to be able to operate existentially. There is no more spiritual example on this planet, potentially spiritual example on this planet, than the unemotional generator. Let's begin with the generator as a whole. You know, anytime and in any conversation or discussion that I have about the nature of generators, I always predicate this by saying that these are the select ones. You know, these are the ones that have been chosen in that sense. The generator is responsible for life on this planet. It is the generator that is the source of life on this planet. It's the generator's enveloping aura that brings us all together into the process of life on this planet, that binds us together as a species. And yet the reality is that despite the power and the inherent beauty of the generative force, that the vast, vast majority of generators are deeply, deeply not self and constantly trying to be manifestors. You know, it's something that is, because I've been dealing with it for over 20 years now, I always thought, that is, my earliest thinking when I was given this knowledge was that generators were going to be my natural allies and I could wake them up in 5 minutes. You know, you're a generator, respond, your whole life will change. It wasn't that easy. It wasn't that easy because the not-self is something that is very, very powerful. the fears that human beings have, their insecurity about who they are and what they can do and what they'll be able to do and so forth and so on are so profound. Human beings are not raised correctly. They don't eat correctly. They don't live correctly. They don't live as themselves. They don't live by their own authority. And as such, it's exceedingly difficult for them to live out the potential of what they really are. When you look at any sacral being, you're looking at somebody who is the source of frustration on this plane. The vast majority of generators, in operating incorrectly, simply put out a huge frustrating wave that covers this whole planet. And all of us become susceptible to it. All the other types, the manifestors and projectors and reflectors who are non-sacral, they get to amplify this frustration of generators not being able to function as themselves. And as I said, the most difficult configuration for a generator is to be unemotional. The pure generator, unemotional, that the only thing that will ever work for them is if they can just let go and surrender to the moment. The generator in its moment of perfection has absolutely no idea what's going to happen. That's the magic of being an existential generator. You have no idea, none. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't know what's going to happen. And there's no temptation in trying to control it. Now, it doesn't mean that your mind isn't going to go through things. Mind is mind and will always do what it does best. It will measure. The mind will discuss all of these possibilities of what could be, might be, should be, shouldn't be, all that stuff. But that's just mind. Remember, the human design is based on decision-making. Decision-making is not the same as thinking about things. To make a decision is to make a decision. It isn't to ponder it. Everything about strategy and authority in human design is that strategy and authority is applied to decision-making. You may be a generator who is unemotional, whose mind is probing all kinds of things, but it doesn't mean that you're able to make a decision based on that. You're not. It's a support mechanism. It enriches the potential of your experience here on this plane. But the decision-making comes in the moment, in response. In the moment, in response. There is no other way. This is the great joy. See, if you think about what decision-making really is, decision-making is navigation. It's navigation. If you're an emotional being, you navigate over time, you take your time trying to find that right direction, and then you make your decision. But if you're unemotional and you're a generator, you're here to respond to making a left turn or a right turn, whatever that case may be. The moment that there's something in front of you, you can make a turn out of the way. You're forced to respond in the now. In the now. Because this truly is what it is all about. You see, to be an unemotional generator is to be a very, very special being. You're here to be on the edge. The edge. You stand on the edge and you wait. And you wait. You don't have to wait long. Generators never have to wait long. There's always something to respond to. But the moment you take emotionality out of the life is the moment that you introduce the spontaneous. And the moment that you introduce the spontaneous, you need to have the deep, deep courage and self-assurance that you are correct in the moment. So many beings are afraid. So much of life is about fear. If you're a generator and you're unemotional, then it means that you're nervous. There are things that you're nervous about. There are things that you're afraid of. And most human beings are not self. Most human beings are tormented by the fact that they have no idea what they should do. They're always trying to make it up. They're always trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing. See, to be an unemotional generator really puts you on the spot. It says, look, you're right here, and all you can ever do is trust in your response. You can't plan anything. I mean, you can imagine plans. You know, it's not the same thing as being able to decide that you're going to do this or that. This is the great dilemma for all generators anyway. You know, is this assumption that they can decide, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. This is called being a manifester. And all that leads to is resistance, and the resistance leads to frustration. And if you're an unemotional generator and you're acting as a manifester, basically you're spending your life avoiding confrontation and truth, running away from the truth, truly running away from it, hiding from it. You know, live your life like that. See, it's a great challenge to be unemotional. And yet at the same time, in the homogenized world, in a world where 51% of humanity is emotional, in a world where all those other beings who are not emotional are amplifying the emotional wave, that there is great distortion there. See, the generator has a gift. It's a very profound one, actually. The generator is the only type that's here to know themselves. You're here to know yourself. You're here to truly understand the nature of your being. You know, I've often made the joke about Delphi. You know, the sign over Delphi said, know thyself. It was obviously just for generators. And the oracle of Delphi did not go out and advertise, you know, did not manifest, did not run out there and scream, come and see me. The truth for a generator is not something you seek, it's something that finds you. The truth is something you respond to. Love is something you respond to. Life is something you respond to. Career is something you respond to. And in the now. See, that takes great trust. To be spontaneous, purely spontaneous, and not be a fool, you know. It takes self-knowledge. It takes trust in what you are. The pure generator has to come to grips with the power that is within them. That in the moment is everything. And to be a spontaneous being, and to be ready to make decisions spontaneously in response, doesn't mean that the decision you make in one moment is going to hold forever. These are moment-by-moment navigations in your process, moment by moment. Any spontaneous being, any being that is here to operate primarily in the now, makes all kinds of minor movements as they adjust their way through their process. This is not the emotional being with their profound ability to go through in depth all of the things that are there in order to lay out a much greater and longer term movement in the way in which they navigate. But to be spontaneous, to be simply there in the moment, to be there without fear, to not know whether you're going to go this way or that way to anything, this is quite a place to be. It's called surrender. It is. It is one of these, beautiful concepts that most human beings can never really approach. To surrender, to let go, to fall into the grace of what you are, to allow your form principle to dictate what is correct for you and healthy for you and proper for you. And because it is all taking place so quickly, it doesn't mean you have a grasp on why you're going to something or to something. It is the thing that is so interesting about the spontaneous life. If you're an emotional being, you get to know why. Because you go through this movement, you go through the wave, you go through all of the depth. So that when you finally get to your point of clarity and you have a decision, you know why you got there. See, I'm unemotional. I'm not a generator, but I'm an emotional manifester. I have to operate in the now. I have no idea why sometimes I go yes or no. None. I only get to see what happens when I navigate that way, and the benefits of it, and the advantages that it has brought me, and the grace that it's brought into my life. And as intelligent as I am, the fact that I do not understand why, that in that single moment, that there is no way of knowing why, there is simply the trust in oneself. You see, to be a generator that is unemotional is something very, very special. You're here to trust so deeply in yourself. You must, because there's nothing else. You have to trust so deeply in that response because there's nothing else. If you're an emotional generator, a response can be processed over time. You can process many responses relative to the same thing over time until you get to your place of clarity. You get to work it all through. Unemotional people do not have this advantage. You know, it's why I tell emotional people to really enjoy their time. The advantages they have because they get the richness of everything. They don't have to be, surprised, or how come I said that, or how come I went yes? Because in the moment, spontaneous response does not mean that there is an accompanying intellectual backup. It doesn't. It's just your sacral. It's just your sacral. And whatever your sacral is connected to. See, there's something to understand about depth in design. We have substructure, that is, the values that are there beneath the surface of the line, the colors, the tones, the bases. It is something to understand about the sacral. It's not just your sacral motor that is saying yes or no to something. This is not just a machine making a random yes or no. When you're operating according to your strategy and authority, you're operating according to a deeper cognition within you. The basic cognition that's there that actually emerges as your sacral response. The more correct you are in the way in which you approach the decision making, the more cognition, the more awareness is there in your sacral response. It's also important to see what your sacral is doing in that moment. Let's say that your sacral is connected to the root. That decision in any moment is about whether it is going to be useful for you to use your energy this way or that. And again, it goes back to the same thing. When you're a generator, your life is dependent on the quality of the energy that you use. If you use your energy correctly, then you're going to get your signature. And the signature is satisfaction. And there is nothing like satisfaction. But it has to do with using your energy correctly. It's what your sacral tells you in those moments of responding in the now. It's not making a moral judgment. It's not making an intellectual statement at all. It's saying, excuse me, this is not a good thing to use our energy for. Or, this is a great thing to use our energy in. That's all it's saying. It isn't saying anything else. This is what the sacral is all about. The sacral will say no, not because the thing is, not nice or intellectually distasteful or this or that, or you don't agree with it. The sacral says no because it's saying no, that this is not going to bring satisfaction. Doesn't matter what it is. In the same way that your mind can tell you, wow, we really have to do this thing. And then somebody asks you and you hear your sacral go, no. What your sacral is saying, I don't care whether my mind, thinks that's interesting. Fact is, if we use our energy in this, we're only going to be frustrated. See, that's what your sacral is telling you. It's not giving you some profound philosophical guidance. It isn't. It's right down to the core. It's saying to you, you want to be satisfied or you want to be frustrated? What do you want? You want frustration? Then let your mind tell you what to do. You know, if you like frustration, let your mind tell you what to do. This is what you'll get in your life. You'll live a life of frustration. But you see, if you want to be satisfied in this life, then you let your sacral decide. You let it decide. And then don't spend so much time trying to interpret why, you know? Because it never has to do with what your mind thinks these things have to do with. You're a generator. You are an energy being. This is literally what you are. You're a pure energy being. And this is about using your energy correctly. As a spontaneous generator, using your energy correctly is something that is always possible as long as you surrender to the moment. And you avoid the horrors of where your mind can take you. Oh, I know so many generators. After all, they fill the planet. They're nearly 7 out of every 10 people that you're going to meet, and they're almost invariably all carrying this heavy frustration around. Because they do not use their energy correctly. And using your energy correctly isn't some, large thing. It's about all the little things in your life. If you don't have a correct relationship, you're not using your energy correctly in the relationship, you're going to be frustrated. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter where you look. It's always the same equation. If you're a generator, it's about use of energy. And if you're a spontaneous, unemotional generator, it's about the perfection of allowing your sacral to guide you as to what is going to be satisfying and what is going to be frustrating. And you get to know in the moment. You don't get to know why. You don't get any of all of that depth and support material and all of that stuff, because it's not the point. You get a simple guidance that says this or that, binary code, on, off, satisfying, frustrating, satisfying, frustrating. Don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this one out, do you? And you see, the moment that you trust your sacral in response, when it tells you yes, it's saying this will be satisfying. And then go into the process. And then you get the other answers that you think were important. The kinds of things that you thought would have been important beforehand. You have to trust in being what you are. You're a deeply alive force here in the moment, vibrating with all of this potential energy. And everything in your life is determined on you using your energy the way that it is correct for you to use it. And you can only use that energy correctly if you enter into anything correctly as yourself. Spontaneous, in the now, in response. See, when I look at the generator community, the unemotional generators have it much more difficult than the emotional ones. The emotional ones have an excuse. They've got their wave. Their wave gives them that chance of processing why they will go yes or no. But if you're unemotional, you don't have that. It's the gods saying to you, hey, here's your chance for perfection. The perfect existential, the classic image of the Buddha, right here, in the now, absolutely perfect, absolutely aligned to the nature of the world, absolutely aligned to the frequency of life around you, totally open and enveloping as all generators are, open to any possibility, open to any any way in which your energy can be used to the benefit of yourself and others. Because after all, as a generator, with your enveloping energy, all of this is necessary. That is your connection to the other. When a generator is correct, their influence on the other is extraordinary. And when a generator is satisfied, it's like that joke about the crowd that gathered when a lawyer showed up in heaven. Nobody ever expected that. To be able to see a generator truly satisfied in the moment, wow, that alone will draw a crowd. You put enough generators together and the patina of frustration is so thick it's uncomfortable. And this is not what they're about. I've always seen generators as the perfect beings. Not literally, quite literally. All they have to do is just let go and surrender to life. Allow life to dictate. Allow their form to respond. And in that arises the perfection of what they are as a being, whatever that is, from whatever area that comes from. And to be satisfied. This is the great reward. It is such a beautiful thing. It is so different. It brings this beauty into the generative life. It gives them this chance to truly be able to relax. To be able to release themselves from the tension of what it is to be frustrated. To be frustrated is a terrible tension. It's a dark cloud that covers their life. It covers everything. It paints everything. It distorts everything. Look at the world around us. There are so many examples day to day of the deep, deep, deep frustration on this plane. How unsatisfied humanity is. And it all comes back to generators. This vast majority, this 7 out of every 10 human beings, if all those generators could respond, could operate according to their nature, we would live in a totally different world. And by the way, don't count on that, because it's not about to happen. There is nothing more difficult than overcoming the homogenized not-self mind. You look at all that openness in your design. It's been running your life, all your life. For humanity, this is what it does. Most of the generators in the world, not only are they deeply frustrated, but they're running around like mad, trying to control their destiny. It's why there is so much frustration. It's why there is so much poverty and disease and death on this plane. It's not about fault or blame. It's about ignorance. It's about lack of courage. See, if you're a generator and you're unemotional, the challenge for you is the courage to live what you are, to live it in the moment, to live the perfection of what it is to be a pure generator that is unemotional. How beautiful that can be. Well, that's your challenge. It's always the challenge of the generator. Frustration and pain, or the great pleasure that comes with satisfaction. I wish for all of you the ability to be able to embrace your nature and to find satisfaction in your life. It's quite a thing. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And until next time, bye for now.
I can do nothing but wait. I sit alone with my head through the sky. Yes, I'm wondering and never asking why. I just see inside, see inside.